the Viking saddlebags. Leather exterior, rigid interior frame, comes with full-blown mounting hardware, or you can do the throw-over style like I did with mine here. They are immaculate. The old Kimotos are gone. These things serve their purpose, lasting almost right about 2.5, almost 3 years, and they held up pretty well. I did end up getting some cracking here and there in certain spots, some extra wear in certain spots, and just from you know, everyday use. But as far as no holes, as far as keeping everything in it dry and being very water resistant, not 100% waterproof, but very, very water resistant. Like, this thing sat out in the rain for several rainstorms many times throughout the years, the handful of years of owning them, and my stuff stayed dry. It stayed dry. They did just fine as far as keeping stuff dry and keeping it all together. No holes. Just again, wear spots from where it rubbed up against the shock tube things right there, and some cracking where, you know, it was constantly bending over and constantly flexing. But yeah, no, they held up really good, and I was very happily impressed. The buckles in the clasp system with the 2-digit combination lock was great. I mean, it was just a great system. I loved the fact that they locked. This is the 22-liter bag, and that's was designed originally for throwing over the old school 250 Honda Rebel. Because of the size of the bag and the way that I've got my spacer brackets, which you'll see in a little bit, this ends up being, for me, on my bike set up the way that I set it up for my previous bags. These are awesome. They're a fantastic size, upgrading size, going from the old bags that I had on here, which were 15-liter bags. These are 22. I loved the idea of the small bags. The small bags worked great, and I love the idea of my saddlebags not being massive and not sticking out really far. But the 15 liters wasn't quite enough for me. It just really wasn't. So upgrading to a 22-liter bag is absolutely awesome without it being too huge. Let me go ahead and show you the insides of the bags, and then we'll give you some views of how they're sitting on the bike and how I've mounted them, or mostly just thrown them over and underneath the passenger seat. The buckles are gorgeous. They're pretty, they're shiny, they're fancy dancy, right? But it's behind the buckles, the silver buckles, where you have your typical little plastic clasps, and you have one on each side, plus they go down to these little peggy guys. That kind of helps hold them in place, and I guess you could put another lock on there if you really felt like you needed to. I don't know. But then there's Velcro on each side. There's Velcro here, and there's Velcro on the front, and then the lid just opens right up. And as you can see here, I've got my ball cap, and I've got my little Armor All wipes and some ibuprofen and Tums in there. I got my little bag there with that stuff in, and with my EDC type stuff in there, and I've got some extra paracord cordage and whatnot, so I keep that stuff in one. And then of course on the other side, my little ShamWow towel that I've cut up to about the size that I want, my first aid kit, and I've got some bungee cords, 2 different types of bungee cords, and some Ziploc bags in case, you know, somebody loses a finger, I can throw their finger in a Ziploc bag, get them to the hospital quick and in a hurry, and get that finger sewn back on. And I've got that finger in a plastic bag so that they can reattach it safely with minimal infection, because I've got their finger in a Ziploc bag. Now, you never know what you could use a Ziploc bag for, right? Right? Whether it's somebody's finger or something else, who cares? But yeah, and of course they lock on. So there's lots of space. I can fit probably 2 liters in there, and I'm going to say that a lot because I love the fact that because of this upgraded size that I can put some 2 liters in the bag. Alright, let's go on to some more details about how they're mounted. So here's the above view of the bags mounted with the throw over system of just some nice thick heavy duty leather, and it's real leather. That's what's so great about and what you're paying for when you're paying for these Viking bags is it's real leather. They meet up with a nice wide Velcro section, and I'm telling you it's really stout Velcro. Like super good Velcro. That stuff is not getting separated. And then it also had some webbing straps that you could stretch across and loop through and tighten down. So double lockup. Plus, it's being pinched pretty darn well by the passenger seat in itself. But so yeah, there you go. There's a look, and of course, I have my existing mounted spacers with the metal plate there attached, so that I was able to leave in place and use as my spacers to draw the bags out away from the fender for proper clearance and help in getting them sitting upright as possible without dragging them out so far to where they're really just like bulging. I didn't want bulging saddlebags. But here we go. This is how they look. Now the other thing that I had to do, I did have to modify. If you can see, I added some wood. Yes, that's wood, but it's painted. But there's I added some wood spacers, some little 1x1 pieces that are then just screwed in from the other side of the metal plate there, and then some felt on this side, so the bag's actually touching the felt, not the wood. But yeah, I had to add those spacers down at the bottom because otherwise the bags were like really going like this. So in order to get the spacing right, yeah, I had to get put spacers down at the bottom of that spreader plate. But yeah, here's back end view without displaying my license plate. So there is enough clearance so that I didn't have to remount or do my signals differently. The bags are far enough apart for clearing my turn signals, and they're not so far back to where they're hiding the turn signals. So, people behind me will see them just fine if they're even bothering to pay attention in the first place. Now, as far as clearance with my exhaust, my aftermarket exhaust, plenty of clearance. That's like that's about 5.5 inches, roughly. So plenty of clearance. Riding yesterday for a good 25 minutes or so, the bottom of the bags they didn't really get hot. They got a little bit warm, but they didn't get hot. I mean, even after like a 2 to 3 hour ride, they're not gonna get hot enough. I absolutely love the fact that they lock here with a key lock. I mean, as much as my previous bags were a combination lock. What's crazy about the Viking bags is they've got so many different models that fit so many different bikes, And so they have ones that did not have the buckles on it at all, so it's just Velcro and the lock. That I would have preferred that, but there was a price difference, and the fact that I got these things for like $150 and plus tax. But because I was able to get these for that price, it was like another $50 or $60 to get the ones without the buckles. So yeah, my vote went towards the money saving aspect of it. So, and the buckles kind of look cool. Do I love the bags? Absolutely. I mean, the quality is there. Increased amount of volume that I get out of these bags is freaking fantastic. I love that I can get 2 liters in each of these bags. Even with the couple of little items that I've got in them, the stuff that I like to keep in them all the time, I can still put 2 liter bottles in each saddlebag. I don't know if I'd be brave enough to throw a whole gallon of milk, a milk jug, in there, even though I believe it would fit. I don't see why it wouldn't fit. It's just the fact that the caps on the milk jugs are a little, they're not as stout, as robust as a 2 liter, and I would be just a little nervous about a milk jug bursting inside of one of these bags, and that would be a bad day. That would be a bad day for the bag.